All right, you guys, happy Monday and congratulations are in order for Spain. You guys, I was very excited that Spain won. You have no idea. Well, you kind of have an idea because I told you guys that after the roughest year of my life, Spain absolutely healed me. That 2-week vacation was so necessary. They were just perfect. And it seems the entire world was rooting against Argentina for different reasons. For me personally, not because I hate Argentinians, but I think the majority of the world was just looking at Ben Gvir, rooting for them, Bibi Netanyahu. In general, we hate psychopathic, genocidal murderers, and having them explicitly come out and say that they were rooting for that team to win was not helpful. You can't just root for Satan out of a love for country, right? That's why even me, I was off of the US train. It was like they were the underdogs. But as soon as the corrupt Howard Lutnick and President Trump got involved, the 9/11 crew getting back together, they stuck their noses in it. I was like, still love you, United States, but I gotta root against naked power and demons. Same with France, nothing personal. You know, I love the French people. They've been so unbelievable in our investigations because they believe exactly what I'm telling them. They know what Brigitte is and what Brigitte did. And the players were especially hilarious. I remember that clip from a while ago of those French football players looking at Brigitte, giving her the side eye. But I think just around the world, we're so sick of the blatant corruption of these governments. That was the feeling. And it just felt like Spain deserved it for taking an unapologetic stance in support of Gaza, in my view. And of course, selfishly, for giving me that 2-week reset that I needed. Anyway, do you know who I think also might need a 2-week reset in Spain? Frank Turek and Andrew Kolvet. I just don't know what they're doing anymore. Andrew Kolvet's big brother, Lieutenant Colonel in the military, came to Andrew's defense on X this weekend. Everything's weird. It was very odd. And Frank Turek wants you to know that him and Brian Harpole sharing different details about what happened in the car, that entire CPR bit, well, it's not a contradiction. He's saying they just have different memories, but it's not a contradiction. I'll let him explain. There's a lot of memories that appear to be lapsing regarding September 10th. Let's see if we can help these guys. Welcome back to Candace. Okay, let's start with a fun clip. I watched it so many times. It's just going to make you happy on this Monday morning, or Monday afternoon, rather. I laughed so hard when I watched it, just picturing the crisis at Turning Point USA. They're probably calling all of their crisis PR firms. Turning Point just going, how are we going to spin this? What do we have? It is Robert O'Neill, the former United States Navy SEAL Team 6 sniper who killed Osama bin Laden. Well, he went on to Newsmax, and you're never going to guess, he doesn't quite believe the narrative that the feds are spinning. He does not believe that Charlie was shot with a 30-06 from Losey rooftop. Again, you got to watch this clip because it's amazing. Take a listen.
Rob, you know what you're talking about. That's why we had you on. You know about ballistics. You shot bin Laden. What bothers you the most about this investigation?
Thanks for having me, Rob, and good to see you, General Holt.
You too.
A lot of things it bothers me about this. Nothing in particular, and it's not like I'm out there saying big lie or conspiracy or someone did it. I'm just saying I've been in a lot of shootings. I've killed more than a handful of people, and this thing looked shady off the bat. I've killed people closer than I saw the camera, and I've never seen a shirt move like that. That looks like an explosion to me. Just the fact that no one started doing first aid to Charlie Kirk, they were more concerned about getting SIM cards out of cameras, removing cameras, and then getting him off the X somehow. There didn't seem a lot of concern for his life. It seemed like just clean it up. And then, I've been told they paved it over a couple days later. And then you get Erica Kirk behind all the razzle dazzle, and she's really quick to forgive the alleged shooter, which technically says that was him because I forgive him, but that you can't forgive Candace Owens for having an opinion or asking questions. And they mock people by saying, oh, I'm just asking questions. Yeah, I'm a SEAL Team 6 sniper. I'm asking a lot of questions. No one wants to answer them.
I think he said everything there. It's what everybody's thinking and what everybody is saying, and they just can't buy enough influencers. What are they going to do? Call him a psychopath, a sociopath? They could do the pastor gambit thing. have them all come out and say he's demonic and he's possessed. How dare he attack a widow? We could bring back Dana Lash. She could start speaking the widow to Robert O'Neill. I just don't know how you respond to that. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know how bullets work. What are you going to say there? And it just keeps getting better, that clip, because Robert O'Neill was joined by Air Force Brigadier General Blaine Holt. And here is what he had to say regarding the narrative.
General, same to you. So this rifle, this 30-06, it's a powerful rifle. What do you make of this narrative that the bullet might have hit Charlie's spine, which would explain why the damage wasn't what you would typically see with a rifle like that from that range?
No, that's not what happened. And this is the thing that hurts here is, and what bothers me the most out of it.
Wait, did you say, General, you don't think that's what happened?
Absolutely not. I'm with Rob. Something exploded on him. But I don't have to get into the details because I'm not in a court of law having to prove a darn thing. Here's what bothers me is there are millions of vets with Rob's training in combat arms as low as mine is. I'm a pilot. But we have enough training to know better than the garbage that was foisted upon us from the Justice Department that day, where they seemingly solved the case in about 8 hot seconds. And we know better. You're not going to take a 30-06 with a kid who's never killed anybody up onto a roof. He takes his first life and does all the things that Rob says he did. So what bothers me, Rob, in all of this is that they know that we know better, and yet they foist this as the narrative and the parable anyway. Why would you do that?
Well,
why would you do that in a circus where there's so many of us who are already going to go, well, that's not exactly what happened at all.
I just love the way he says, no, that's not what happened. It's like he's dealing with children. Like, no, I'm not even, just let's stop that narrative altogether. It's not what happened. It's what we've all been saying since the very beginning. But these people have the street cred to sit up there and to say, this is ridiculous. And so what is the response, again, going to be to this? You got to bring out the pastors, I guess. Lock everybody up for having common sense. When you have people who are in these career fields telling you that this is crap, none of it makes sense. And he is correct. The general is correct in saying that the most alarming part is everybody knows they're lying, and yet they just keep lying. It's beyond that. They just think they have enough money to pull this off. Like, this is like, everyone knows you're trying to attempt this hat trick, and they don't care. They're just going to run it and go, doesn't matter. We're powerful. There's something that you can do. Bring on the grieving widow. Anyway, we are in the process right now of going back. I was telling you guys this last week and trying to remember all of the random cow manure that we were spoon-fed early on, right? It's actually quite a difficult task. I'd argue it's actually a full-time job to keep track of fed slop, but somebody's got to do it. And do you remember when we were told by Governor Cox during an official FBI press conference, a briefing on September 12th, that the assassin changed clothes on the rooftop? That's what the public was told 2 days after the assassination, after they were able to pull, review, and release the footage to the public. Take a listen.
One more thing, Governor. Could you just clarify the clothing issue you mentioned earlier? Was he changing outfits?
Correct. Yes. So when he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the rooftop, and then changed back into that clothing at some point, so that when he was apprehended, when he was arrested, the clothing matched the clothing he had on before the shooting here at UVU.
Next question. Quick, I don't want to have to follow up on the BS that I just said. Now, standing to his side, obviously on the right-hand side of your screen, that's Kash Patel. On the other side, that's Bo Mason standing behind the governor. And you will note that at no point did those two intervene and say, oh, no, that's incorrect. And don't forget, I must stress, this is after they arrested Tyler Robinson, seized the text messages, had the ability to review the footage everywhere on campus, presumably. So what happened to that narrative? There's supposed to be somebody butt naked on the rooftop. What happened to that narrative? Did the governor go rogue like Andrew Kolvet? I hate when that happens. Or did they just completely make that part up as they were trying to make the various decoy boys make sense? I never understood why he needed to change it all. Why can you not wear a maroon shirt? And if you're going to change, why wouldn't you do that in the bathroom? They were trying to tell to us that the assassin was also an exhibitionist or something. Literally, what would be the point of changing from a maroon shirt into a long sleeve shirt with an American flag on a rooftop? I mean, it's amazing that I'm actually held to a higher standard than the FBI. Let me get a time zone calculation incorrect, right? After daylight savings time. Let me use a website and think that it's giving me local time and share local time as I did. And then turns out it's not local time, it's UTC. 80 million videos will pop up overnight from influencers calling me an idiot. But our nation's top brass can apparently make up an entire sequence of events that happened that actually never happened, and the world just moves on. And we're called the conspiracy theorists for noticing these discrepancies and keeping track of them. And also, like I told you last week, I'm still very plagued by the screwdriver question, because what was the point of that narrative entirely? In fact, if we had played more of Robert O'Neill, he goes in on the screwdriver. He says, this isn't even the right screwdriver to take apart the gun that they're telling you that he took apart. This wouldn't get the job done. What's up with this screwdriver? And as we now know, the rooftop man neither assembled or disassembled his rifle on Losey. So did something go wrong? Did they not think that part through? Did they already plant the evidence and they had to just sort of make it work after that because it had Tyler Robinson's DNA on it? And they were like, oh, I can't let that go because that's kind of one of the only things that we have tying him to this rooftop. So we're just going to say he took it out as he was changing. Forget the changing part. Of course, when these questions started coming in about how nothing that the public officials were telling us made any sense, Dan Bongino then came out and did a news hit. You know, he's the tough guy who's going to beat up Tucker Carlson. Yeah, I can beat him in a fight. Well, Dan Bongino joined Megyn Kelly. I want you to understand, this is on September 15th. So we're now 5 days removed from the assassination. He's working at the FBI and has every resource at his fingertip. And here's his excuse for why nothing's making sense. Take a listen.
That's another thing that people are confused about, because if Cash said that they found his, what we presume was his screwdriver on the top of the building, and they found his DNA on it, leading many to believe he had disassembled the gun when he jumped off of the roof. But then it appears when you guys found it in the woods, it was assembled. So can you provide any clarity on that?
Yeah, and I was a little hesitant in a media appearance this morning to go into specifics on especially the video and where the gun was. And there's a reason. Again, we only want to be transparent here.
Yeah, just tell us what you can.
Yeah, the suspect not cooperating the video is obviously grainy, and as folks in the video space know out there, we have a number of really excellent tools in our lab, which is they're doing amazing work, and they've been up and handling this for days now. But the video is very grainy, and I want to be very clear, and I don't want to, there was, I've already seen some online trial. Yeah, I can see it on the screen. You'll see it's a grainy video. Now, I've been on that roof in that corner, and when you see the camera and the distance away, it's clearly not the best video.
Not sure you answered the question there. That's a tricky one. That's what my kids always say when something's confusing. They go, that's a tricky one, Mom. That is a tricky one. So are we to believe that our nation's top brass couldn't rush to get some of that 4K HD, 4D chess, super D duper, crystal clear, overwhelming footage that was made available to Benny Johnson, Graham Allen, and his wife 10 months later, and some other influencers? And we still don't have an explanation for the rooftop and why he had the screwdriver at all. Also, what could they have possibly seen that would have led them to believe that he had changed clothes on the rooftops? There's still no answer for anything. Grainy footage? I actually have an idea. Let me spin a more plausible story to you. I think my source, the person who recorded the rooftop guy on Losey, is likely telling the truth about the tactical clothing. I think it was never even actually a towel that we saw in the footage that the rooftop jogger, the rooftop sprinter had. I think it was likely a black jacket, just as the person who recorded described. He said he was wearing a black jacket and tactical gear. All he knows is he was wearing all black. Because there was that blurry image that we were told was a towel because they had to then make it fit in with the gun, which was wrapped in a towel. But let's check that out. Because I think it's much more likely that rooftop man was just a decoy who never fired any gun. He was tasked with sprinting away at the right time. And then I think it's plausible that while he was running, he dumped his tactical gloves, and what's in his hand there is his black jacket and his backpack, which was also described by my eyewitness who was never contacted for some reason. I think he dropped all that by the bus stop near Fulton Library. And those items, as we learned, were then recovered by Sergeant Jennifer Faumuina of the State Bureau of Investigations, her office. And I have to say this, Jennifer Faumuina rubs me the wrong way. Can't explain it. It's the vibes. It's her entire posture as she randomly blacks out on what could be a crucial piece of evidence. I don't recall. Oh, you don't recall whether you signed off on the FBI not testing a backpack, gloves, potential tactical gear that were abandoned upon the exact path that the shooter ran? You just don't recall that? Who are you, Sergeant Jennifer Faumuina? Over the weekend, a lot of people noted that she appeared, indeed she did, on season 2, episode 1 of the Netflix show called Worst Roommate Ever, where she indicates that she worked with the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. Here's what she says. Take a listen.
I've been with the State Bureau of Investigation for 8 years, but I'm also assigned full-time to the FBI as part of the Joint Terrorism Task Force. And especially with this case, it was one where with this type of bacteria and not knowing this person's intent in purchasing it, we really had to act fast.
So I'll say this, police officers do participate in various TV shows, especially when they're recapping a crime. It's not completely off the mark, but it certainly piqued my interest in her and her background. And she has spoken about how she was born and raised in Hawaii, moved to Utah. And so I decided to just, prod it, see if it's true. And what we have been able to confirm about Jennifer Faumuina is she was indeed raised in Hawaii. In 2003, we found her playing basketball at a private school in Hawaii. From there, she moved to Ogden, Utah, where she studied criminal justice, graduating from Weber State University, which was founded by the Mormon Church, in 2008. In 2013, she completes what's known as post-training at the Utah Department of Public Safety. We then find her. The only mention we could find of her in these next years was in an article in 2016 volunteering for crowd control at the RNC convention. I'll show you that. The RNC convention was in Ohio. They needed volunteer troopers from all around, and you can see Jennifer Faumuina is pictured there as one of these volunteer troopers. Now, what I will say is odd about this particular placement is that it is the only one that we can find that confirms that she was a state trooper. Remember, public records exist for government salaries, and we find none that list her as being a paid officer with the Utah Department of Public Safety until 2018. We couldn't find an article that mentions her before 2018 either. Aside from that, instead, she appears to be working some sort of a part-time gig at Weber State University. We are happy to update that information if more becomes available, but it appears to us like maybe she was still in school, receiving further certifications. I'm not entirely sure. What is known is that in 2018, like I said, we have her officially working for the Utah Department of Public Safety, and she is paid very well, hence why I believe that she had more schooling. And there's another interesting tidbit. Now, regarding that FBI press conference that we showed you earlier, Kash Patel is standing to the right, and he's standing next to the newly appointed state police commissioner, Bo Mason. That's Bo Mason. You should know that Bo Mason was appointed to that position of commissioner of Utah, of the Utah Department of Public Safety on June 19th of 2025 by Governor Cox. And this is not the press conference. The one that we showed earlier with Kash Patel is the one that I wanted to show there, that we showed earlier with Kash Patel standing there. I'm talking about the press conference where the governor says that he was on the changed clothes on the rooftop. Anyway, it turns out that that guy, Bo, was apparently in the same post back in 2013, that training photo with Jennifer Faumuina in 2013. So I can show you that. That's the two of them together. It's a pretty small post session, but that's May 20th, 2013. The two of them are listed together, and they are, I don't know how it works, and I could be ignorant, and I'm sure I'll get emails from people. There's another photo of them, fast forward, Jennifer Faumuina and Bo Mason together 10 years later in 2023 when she is sworn in as a sergeant, 2023, okay? Bo Mason's appointment to police commissioner is timely. I want to point that out. We have continually raised this pattern since early on in this investigation. There were so many new faces and new appointments in Utah ahead of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Everybody was seemingly new. Remember, we have the CEO of Timpanogos Hospital, Andrew Zenger. He was appointed just a couple of weeks before Charlie's assassination on August 18th, 2025. Of course, Judge Tony Graff was appointed in May 2025. We can skip Cash because that makes sense because Trump just came into office. Bo Mason, as I just told you, was appointed on June 19th, 2025 to his position as commissioner. We talked in the past about the newer, I should say, medical examiner from July 2024. And then this one, which just gets me. Remember Special Agent Robert Bowles, who had been serving for the FBI office over in Virginia, but suddenly and rather inexplicably, Kash Patel fires the person that was heading up the FBI Salt Lake City office. He fires that person and installs Robert Bowles on September 2nd. Okay, 8 days before Charlie Kirk's assassination, Robert Bowles assumes that position, and I also of the Salt Lake field office. And I also want to say he had a very long tenure up until that moment with the FBI all over the United States for almost 20 years. But they first want him in Utah on September 2nd, just in time for the September 10th assassination. But curiously, do you know actually where he began his policing career before he went to the military? Of all places, he began at the Provo Police Department back in the early 2000s. Check out this article from 2004. Before he joined the FBI, he was a Provo Police Department. He was in the Provo Police Department, and then he joins the military, and then he joins the FBI. So he really was kind of going back to his old stomping grounds in a way, just in the nick of time. Look, if I didn't know any better, it would look to me like they were getting the old gang back together, to use a phrase. But of course, I do know better, and our nation's FBI has never done anything wrong. They're honorable men. They just, can't seem to necessarily always get their stories together. By the way, speaking of gangs, and back to Ms. Jennifer Faumuina, she recently revealed in a podcast, don't tell me why she's also doing podcasts, apparently she likes the media and cameras, she revealed that her sister was a social worker within the state of Utah. And of course, that allowed me an entry point to learn all about her family history. You know me and genealogy. It's a thing. I just need to know what everybody's mamas and great-grandmamas were doing at all times. And regarding Jennifer, a really terrible thing happened in the Faumuina family down in Hawaii in 1995. Her father, a man named Sapina, spelled phonetically just as I'm saying it, Sapina Faumuina, was very vocal and in the news speaking out about it because it involved the homicide of his brother. Sergeant Jennifer Faumina's uncle was killed. Now, apparently, his name was Missiona Faumuina. Apparently, he was in a gang with his friends, and as a part of a ritual in the gang, he took a beating. And I'm going to spare you the details because they are quite horrific, but it was graphic and it was brutal. And Missiona survived the beating, but after being transported to the hospital, he later on succumbed to his injuries, and it was this big case because there were arguments that went back and forth. Frankly, the arguments were bizarre. The defense made it clear that these guys were all friends. It's just a part of initiation rituals. And they must have proven their case because the 3 kids that were involved got charged with second-degree manslaughter. It was just, this was a part of what these Samoan guys do as a ritual for gang initiation. Even more curious, was Jennifer's father asserting in the press that his brother, her uncle, was a devout Mormon. Like, I'm just going, a devout Mormon gang member. We can take a peek at this together so you can see here what we're talking about. This is, I believe, the second page. Yeah, his older brother. When you go to the first page, I'm just going to read his brother, he said, was soft-spoken, well-mannered, and articulate. He was also a devoted Mormon who attended church in Wapaho every Sunday. It talks about their ward, so the Makilo ward, where the Faumuina family lived. And curious, which deserves a whole episode by itself, is that the brother was a member of this, or a part of this Adult Friends for Youth, which was run by Sid Rosen. That's that last paragraph there. Sid Rosen, who heads Adult Friends for Youth. Speaking out, he seemed like an unlikely candidate to be targeted in such a violent act. It's a tragedy. Okay, we have on the next page as well him speaking about how he was about to go on to his Mormon mission. There's just a lot here. There's a lot here. That Sid Rosen character, if I told you he was connected to Egypt and Israel, you wouldn't even believe me, so I'll skip that portion. The point is that we once again have these groups that are looking for troubled kids. Weird things happen. In later articles, Jennifer's father would claim that the gang was upset because he was going on this Mormon mission. The ward members would speak out denying that he was in a gang, which is rather curious because his older brother's not denying it, saying he fell into trouble, whatever. Just the entire story here, Mormons, gangs, it got me thinking. Because a while ago, I told you guys that I had connected with Courtney Love, and I'm talking a long time ago, back when Charlie was alive. And I had no idea, I told you, what she was talking about when she was describing to me the Mormon Mafia. She kept saying it is an extension of the Zionist Mafia, the Mormon Mafia. I truly, at this time, just could not process that information. And I go back now and I read those messages and I'm going, she knew exactly what she was talking about, I think. Because now a very interesting picture is emerging, and that's why I'm speaking to you about this. A picture that I think is going to shock you, but we have to unpack it quite slowly. I don't want to give you information overload today, so I just want you to park that in the back of your mind. Because I don't know about you, but I have not abandoned my deep sense that Israel was involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But that the assassination took place in Mormon territory makes it curious. Curious perhaps until tomorrow when we begin to thread some interesting connections for you. Anyway, we will be right back after a brief break. All right, you guys, our great nation turned 250 this year. We represent 2.5 centuries of possibility, growth, and some of the greatest minds in human history. But what is the next 250 years going to look like? The next generation of Americans could be the most impactful, but first they must be given their chance at life. That's why I'm making this critical request today. Give a special gift of $250 to PreBorn to honor our nation's milestone anniversary and to celebrate our great future ahead. Your gift will help provide 8 ultrasounds. PreBorn is helping today's mothers choose life by providing these free ultrasounds so that they can meet their baby for the first time. Help new mothers realize that they can give their baby life and that motherhood is possible. Celebrate America's birthday with your $250 gift to PreBorn today. To donate, simply dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Again, that's pound 250 baby. Or visit preborn.com/Candace. Again, that's preborn.com/Candace. I also want to remind you guys about the Wellness Company because you have probably heard that there is an outbreak in the United States right now. The CDC has confirmed the culprit is a new parasite found in grocery store fruits and vegetables, which has exposed hundreds of millions of Americans across 30 states. The CDC is investigating a multi-state outbreak of cyclospora, which is a parasite linked to contaminated fresh produce. It can cause severe diarrhea, stomach cramps, nausea, fatigue, and other debilitating symptoms. If you get sick, the CDC recommends Bactrim. That's why the Wellness Company created the medical emergency kit, because it comes with generic Bactrim plus 7 additional prescription medications to help treat more than 25 common illnesses and medical emergencies, all prescribed before you need them. Getting your kit is simple. Complete a secure online medical questionnaire. If approved by a licensed physician, your kit ships directly to your door. Don't wait until you're sick to wish that you were prepared. Visit twc.health/Candace and use code Candace at checkout to save up to $45 off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/Candace. Kits are available for U.S. residents only. I also want to remind you guys about PureTalk because you do not have to overpay for your wireless network. Not when PureTalk comes in with the same service for a tiny fraction of the cost. And now for the first time ever, PureTalk is offering any plan at just $15 a month for your first 3 months. There's never been a better time to take PureTalk for a test drive. It's fast, it's reliable, and you're going to love it. You can now get any PureTalk plan, including their unlimited data plans and even their top-tier $65 plan for just $15 a month for your first 3 months. That's a savings of up to $150, but I would switch today because this offer is extremely short-lived. Switch to PureTalk and enjoy your first 3 months of talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. Head to puretalk.com/Owens to make the switch to PureTalk. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens to start saving today. Let's start with Frank Turek versus Frank Turek, because that's my favorite UFC matchup. Like, Frank gets so mad at the previous Frank, later Frank, previous Frank. They are not friends. And when the current Frank catches the previous Frank acting up, oh no, he exercises no humility. He gets caught telling a different story, and then he kind of looks at us and he goes, "It's your fault for even noticing this." Well, apparently he did this podcast that I missed, responding to all of Candace's conspiracies. But oddly, he sort of just concedes every point that I told the truth, but it's still my fault anyways. It's really weird. Like, me noticing the discrepancies is the problem. He doesn't deny that there are discrepancies, but basically wants you to understand that those discrepancies are not important. Now, I would say, some would say, that Brian Harpole asserting that CPR was not performed, while Frank Turek says that it was performed in the car, is a major discrepancy and a major contradiction. But I want you to listen to Frank Turek because he owns it and makes it clear that's not a contradiction. Take a listen.
Brian is correct that most of the ride, we weren't doing any CPR. We couldn't do CPR. We're trying to stop the bleeding. So no CPR was done. It wasn't until the last, say, 30 seconds of the ride that I thought to myself, we got to be nearing like 8 or 9 minutes and he's not breathing and there's no heartbeat. I've got to at least try. It's probably going to be futile, but I got to at least try to start his heart and get some air in him. So I tried that for like 20 or 30 seconds at the very end of the ride when we're pulling into the hospital parking lot and we're yanking and banking our way there. Everybody agrees we were in the car taking Charlie to the hospital. And yeah, we were all trying to stop the bleeding. I mentioned CPR because I was the one trying it the last 20 or 30 seconds of the ride. It's not a contradiction. Right? Now, maybe as we're yanking and banking into the parking lot, Brian was preoccupied thinking or talking to somebody else or whatever, because it was a lot of commotion, as you could imagine. He didn't see me trying for 20 or 30 seconds. Maybe he did. I don't know. In fact, he's got a lawsuit against Candace Owens right now, so I don't think he can even talk about any of this. But someone could call him and ask him if they want to. But it's not a contradiction. We're just emphasizing different details at different times. In fact, eyewitnesses disagree on details for various reasons. That's the mark of authentic eyewitness testimony. They all agree on the essentials. They disagree on the minor details. In fact, disagreeing with others on these minor details can not only be explained, it is to be expected.
I'm just not sure if that didn't sound like one big contradiction. How do you start with, Brian is telling the truth? There was no CPR. And then he's like, I gave CPR. I gave the CPR for 30 seconds. And Brian was right there, but he was like talking or something. Like, I think hopefully I get a jury of my peers, because I feel like that's a contradiction. I think that makes people think that people are lying. And you just keep describing as a minor detail. Providing life-saving CPR to someone is not what most would describe as a minor detail, right? Minor detail would be like you remembered Justin Davis, who was driving, as wearing a blue shirt, but it turns out he was wearing a teal shirt. That's a minor detail. Why would you be focused on that? CPR, you're saying that you moved Charlie's body into the CPR position and provided 30 seconds of CPR, and Brian Harpole didn't notice because he was distracted by what? He told us he just got to work the whole time. That was his number one focus. What was he distracted by in the car while he was trying to perform life-saving measures that he just completely missed you having to, by the way, I still don't really understand how you could get Charlie into the CPR position because we were told the door was open because Charlie's legs were too long. You do have to have someone flat to conduct CPR. How did he miss you moving the body into that position, getting on top of him and providing CPR? I know you're really passionate, but I also think you're full of shit. So there's that. I think your definition of it's not a contradiction is inaccurate. And I don't think it is a contradiction, Frank. I think it's a lie. And you're now conceding that you lied or Brian lied. I don't know who lied. And now you're using he has a lawsuit so he can't speak about it. Why can't you speak about, you just spoke for 3 hours on the Sean Ryan show. Why would the lawsuit prevent you from speaking out? In fact, you're verifying my claims in the lawsuit, Frank. Genius. Everything's so spotty. You would think that would be a crucial detail that no one would forget on that journey, the short journey to the hospital. Now, okay, of course, everyone is forgetting. That's kind of been a point here. A regular fixture is everybody is somehow, I don't know, developing amnesia. And Blake Neff, man, this guy. Blake Neff doesn't remember what city at first. He says he stayed in Orem. Then he has another discussion and changes his mind and says that they stayed in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City is the true event, true version of events. The entire Turning Point team stayed in Salt Lake City, but Blake does not remember what hotel they stayed in. It's a lot. I want you to hear him in his own words. Take a listen.
The first time I talked to you, you said you spent the night in Orem. You stayed at a hotel. You may have left the hotel once for food.
Yeah,
but now you're saying you were in Salt Lake. So you're good.
I'm not. Now I'm saying I don't know the exact context, but my guess is someone said like, "Did you stay in Orem that night?" And I interpreted as, "Did you stay in Utah that night?" As opposed to returning to Phoenix, where I live, and I stayed in Utah that night, and I stayed basically in the same place everyone else stayed. We were all in, to my knowledge, the same hotel, and it was, I think, in Salt Lake.
What hotel was it?
I don't remember.
He doesn't remember. By the way, that's quite a scene to have all of Turning Point USA employees that were there that day, plus Erica Kirk, and I'm assuming a very large security apparatus. I am trying to put the pieces together of why they stayed in Salt Lake at all, while Charlie was in Orem, in Provo. I don't understand why you would make a journey 50 miles out. And that, by the way, that's confirmed on the basis of where they bought clothes, that they decided to drive out, stay at a hotel. Provo's a pretty big city. I would imagine you would want to stay close to Charlie. I don't know why they were flying into Salt Lake for this event, full stop, because Blake didn't go, but he flew with Charlie, but we know that he didn't go. And other Turning Point staffers also flew into Salt Lake City, people who did not go to Charlie's restaurantology event. Why? Why was Salt Lake the hub? I'm trying to figure that out. Why were we stationed at Salt Lake? There may be a viable explanation. Maybe it's because they were anticipating that the vice president was going to fly in, and maybe that was nearer to where he was going to fly in. I don't know. I'd like to know, and I'd like to help Blake. I think that that's really sad that he can't remember details, and he's so young, and he's balding, and now he can't remember things. And so if you were working at a hotel and saw this scene of all of these employees, we would love to hear from you. Please send us something to moretips@CandaceOwens.com. We definitely know what hotel the feds were staying at. We don't know what hotel Turning Point USA was staying at. And I have gone out to Turning Point staffers. They have no idea. So this seems to be just the people that were there who might be able to help Blake out. But I'm sure there had to have been hotel workers who remember this. I mean, Erica instantly, her face was everywhere. So where did she stay that night? Where did they all stay that night? I'd just like to know. It's a random detail that's now interesting because Blake has developed amnesia. So do message us about that. Lastly, I can't even explain to you, if you're not following Andrew Kolvet, who he's in peak form right now on X. The mask has just fully slipped. I mean, we already knew who he was. We knew, I told you he was directing all this behind the scenes, the lies, the attacks, and we got a gift in the form of him firing the person who worked under him. So I was able to confirm even more lies that Andrew Kolvet was telling to the public. But I guess that's his job. He thinks it's his job to lie, but he's crashing out in a way that it's difficult. He's almost like a phase of delusion. He's telling me that his show's doing great. My show's crashing. My metrics are down. I'm on my way down. I don't even know what's happening, but a strange little thing took place where his brother came to his defense over Fort Huachuca. Again, they always pick these obscure things. No one has ever accused Andrew Kolvet as being at Fort Huachuca. No one ever accused his brother, to my knowledge, but they always find an obscure account that says something and then they respond to it. And this time a lieutenant colonel. These men are like in their 40s and 50s. Like, why is your brother out here defending you on X? He's a lieutenant colonel. What are we paying these people to do? I want a tax refund on the basis of how people in our government are behaving over the last year. Anyways, this is what his brother, Lieutenant Colonel Kolvet wrote on X. He said, "I am his only brother. And I never worked at Fort Huachuca. I only went there once for a 3-day training day. I don't know what that stands for. And 2 of those days were travel days as I visited my military police unit training with the base military police from Huachuca. I'm sorry if you've heard different. You were sadly misinformed. Tucson seems wonderful. The people were great, and Tombstone is worth the visit if you get the chance. Have an amazingly blessed day. P.S. I wish they had named it some fort in Tucson. It'd be so much easier to know how to pronounce and spell it correctly." And then Andrew chimes in like, "Yeah, I can't even say it. They can't even like pronounce it. It's like, what are you guys talking about? No one knows about this fort. I was there for a 3-day training sesh, but my bro and me, like, okay, what are we doing here? Tagging the homies in, I'm an adult woman. I'm not tagging my big sister into an X feed to comment on a non-existent scandal. I do think that Andrew has heard of Fort Huachuca. I do, just by the nature of where he lives, by the nature of what Erica's family does, what his family does. He's heard of Fort Huachuca. It wasn't some fort. I think he's lying through his teeth about that. Oh, some fort, ha ha. No one's heard of this. All of us are involved in the military and we live in Arizona, but we just weren't aware of this massive intel base, which directs what's going on at the border, Joint Task Force at the border since forever. We just didn't know that was right there. Yeah, my cousin's in the military, my brother's in the military, but we genuinely had never heard of this fort. And we do wish it was like, guys, from the outside looking in, we're kind of thinking that you're a bit nervous. This does not look like calm and collected. All right. When you got to get your big brother to come out here and defend you on these streets, it doesn't look good. So I think this crash out has been continuing. Anyway, we're going to take a brief break and we'll be right back to read some of your comments. All right, you guys, it is no secret that everything is starting to feel a lot more expensive these days. If those daily essentials are ending up on a credit card, then those double-digit interest rates are quietly draining your bank account. If that debt is starting to feel heavy, you should know that you're not alone. And if you're a homeowner, you've likely looked at your mortgage rate and thought, I don't want to touch that. But American Financing offers a smart equity loan so that you don't have to. It allows you to wipe out high-interest debt and lower your monthly overhead while keeping your primary mortgage intact. It's a surgical strike against debt. Unlike a fluctuating HELOC, the Smart Equity Loan is a fixed-rate loan, giving you a predictable monthly payment. At American Financing, there are never any upfront fees to find out what you qualify for, so talk to a salary-based consultant today. These are the experts who are paid to help you save, not to sell you more than you need. So call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. Again, AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. I also have to tell you guys about Nimi Skincare. You know I love them. What makes their skin products so great is that their tallow comes from grass-fed, grass-finished cattle raised on a Montana farm. And in a world where so many companies hide where their ingredients come from, that actually really matters. Everyone seems to be talking about tallow these days, but not all tallow is created equally. Nimi has focused on sourcing exceptional ingredients and creating products that people genuinely love to use. That's why I've been using Nimi's Sunshine Tallow Cream and their Buzzin' Tallow Balm. Their Sunshine Tallow Cream has become one of Nimi's most popular products because it's rich, nourishing, and made with tallow, aloe vera, avocado oil, shea butter to deeply moisturize the skin while still feeling lightweight and comfortable. It leaves your skin feeling soft, looking soft, hydrated, and healthy without that greasy feeling. When my skin needs a little extra support, I reach for the Buzzin' Tallow Balm because it's a richer formula that helps lock in moisture and leaves skin feeling deeply nourished and cared for. What I appreciate most is that these products are rooted in simplicity, high-quality ingredients, American sourcing, American manufacturing, and skincare that simply works. So if you've been curious about tallow skincare, now is the perfect time to try it. Visit NimiSkincare.com to save an additional 10% off your order with promo code Candace10 at checkout. Again, that's NimiSkincare.com, promo code Candace10 at checkout. Okay, I've seen a lot of people in the chat asking me, did we find out who Ben Shapiro was at lunch with? I can tell you the answer to that is yes. We instantly actually found out at least who went around and told people that he was at lunch with Ben Shapiro, and it opened a huge door, which requires a little bit more research. We will not get out of this week without me telling you who that individual is, who was telling people that he was out to lunch with Ben Shapiro when he got that phone call. I mean, I'll tell you, it's bringing me to wanting to read the book about the Franklin cover-up. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I had a lot of people, a lot of times telling me about is it called the Franklin cover-up? Cover-up, is that what it's called? A widely debated conspiracy theory. Omaha, Nebraska, one of our Egyptian plane stops. The scandal involving a $40 million financial fraud, claims of abuse by high-ranking politicians, and satanic ritual abuse. So that's where that led me. And I just have to make research. I want to be slow and methodical and know what I'm speaking about. As you see, this is a heavily researched show. And if we make one mistake, if I say not Omaha, Nebraska, but I instead say Omaha, Idaho, and they come out and they know what you're talking about. And so this name just kind of made me go, okay, there's a lot happening here. Just a lot happening here. And I got to slow down. So like I said, we will not get out of this week without me revealing that information. And the person was willing to come forward on record and say that. But yeah, let's slow play because we also know that Ben is extremely litigious. I know more than anybody else that Ben is extremely litigious. Anyway, top comment from last week's episode. Mike says, I love when Frank Turek gets mad at Frank Turek for lying about what Frank Turek said. I think you're quoting me on that. It's a favorite. It's a beat on this show now. How mad Frank Turek can get at Frank Turek. Next up, Antarctica wrote, Blake Neff acts like he lost his squishmallow. He does. He does. And I am not going to be the one to get up and return it for him. So Blake Neff, maybe you got to do a phone your daddy. Like you got to, Andrew Kolvet's bringing in his brother, big brother. You got to bring in your dad, I think, to come out and regulate these streets, these mean streets of X. From this episode, we have North America First who writes, so Flock could be used to go after common folk, but not this guy. It seems like Flock is biased. No, this is the problem with this surveillance state program. Not all fair treatment for the people. It can be as faulty as body cams. Yeah, it is true that Utah has cameras all throughout the state, and yet we just can't get a clear shot of Tyler Robinson. For some reason, everything is so blurry. We can't just follow exactly the tracks of where the alleged shooter on the rooftop went. And apparently we don't have, we can't even get a video of him taking the shot. And that's, I believe, because he never took it. That person had he was another decoy boy that day. One job, do this, get up, run, fire, no shot. And I agree with Robert O'Neill. It looks like an explosion went up, happened under his shirt. It sounds like Robert O'Neill has killed a person or two and might know what a shot looks like up close. And he doesn't seem to think that shirts do those sorts of activities after people are hit in the neck. But what would I know? What would he know? We have, Grant Allen telling us that that's the case. These people are the true experts. These little sissy boys that are on YouTube all day telling us what to believe. The real tough guys in the military, the ones that are on YouTube channels going after girls. Yeah, we totally believe you guys. Kendall Brown writes, sniper, nudist, Tyler. Also, who are the 3 TPUSA folk that Tyler met with before the assassination? I have an idea. I have a deep sense of who that person is going to be at Turning Point USA, who is going to say that they saw Tyler Robinson. I'm waiting for that person's name to be dropped because I'm waiting for that drop. That's it. I'm going to leave you guys at that. If it's who I think it is, we got a problem. If they drop some blurry footage and with some person in a maroon shirt and say that was Tyler Robinson and this is the person that's the eyewitness, we got a problem. Intuition Jen writes, early in the investigation, I said it keeps coming back to the Mormons and TPUSA. Today, I say it keeps coming back to the Mormons and the web connected to the Tyler Boyer family, who are Mormons, just pointing out how many involved are Mormon. Of course, Farnsworth's big Mormon family, taking down the cameras. They go back. They go way back. How far back? Generational. It is generational. We got BB, we got Romney. There's a lot of people in the mix here. It does really seem like these scales are falling from our eyes, and this assassination is waking up the entire world. Like, none of this is real. Model City Zen writes, I love your coverage, Candace. Wolves in Finance discovered that you qualify as a witness representative more than Erica Kirk, allegedly, in his video. Trial update, Erica Kirk tricked the judge. It's certainly worth the watch. Go Max. As I've said many times, I would testify for the prosecution or the defense because the truth is the truth. Whoever it serves is whoever it serves. Kendall Brown writes, oh, I read that already. Zamet writes, Governor Cox has a grainy truth problem, not just the video. Yeah, I don't know how they get away with just pretending that they never said that happened. I don't know how they get away with the screwdriver that makes no sense. The screwdriver that apparently can't even unscrew the weapon that they're saying was fired. All right, now Gen X writes, this is my donation to the potty mouth jar for Candace today. Go Max. Did I say a swear word today? Did I? Oh, that's not good. Thank you. Thank you for that donation. I needed that. I'll let people know that that was already handled. I really, really try not to swear. What did I swear? Who did I swear about? I'm really good at not swearing. Frank, Kolvet, somebody was full of it. I'm sorry. Ali writes, have you seen the clip where Erica says, we don't know how Charlie would feel about the Iran war? Yeah, I saw that. That deserves way more outrage. Tucker, Brett Weinstein, Joe Kent have all confirmed that he was fighting hard behind the scenes to stop it. What a betrayal. It's just what Erica is. What she is. She's reversed course on everything that Charlie believed. I believe she had more loyalty to the people that brought her in. Tyler Boyer and the Farnsworths and her mother, they go back. And that's what she was serving while she was married to Charlie. I think that that's what the evidence points to. There's no way. There's just no way that they're going to try to make us believe that any of the actions, the reversals, the 180s, the bringing the people that he hated, trying to lie and say they were his friends. There's no way that any actually grieving widow would allow that, nor would they even be back to work or doing all these events and immediately in the office after facing a shocking assassination of their husband. Like, none of it tracks. It's never going to track, but they're going to spend a lot of money, and they have spent a lot of money trying to make it so. Anyway, you guys, you know the best way to support us is by visiting CandaceOwens.com and buying some merch. Also joining the book club. We had a really important book club. Make Him a Sandwich, that chapter 4 regarding the Pale of Settlement. The people who left the Pale of Settlement left Russia after they coordinated the assassination of the Tsar. It was just a fantastic book club meeting. You can join the book club and you can still go back and watch those episodes. And yeah, you can also buy yourself a Standis cup. Stop anti-Candacism. It is spreading rapidly. We see it all over the internet. It makes us all uncomfortable. I don't feel safe. You shouldn't feel safe with all of this anti-Candacism. No one has seen this many influencers trying to take down one person who does not employ anybody to go after them at all. I don't team up behind the scenes, nothing. I just investigate what I'm interested in. And right now it is the assassination of my friend Charlie Kirk. So anyway, you guys, that's enough for today. We will see you tomorrow.